Hello there, and welcome to the Expat Answerman podcast. If you have questions about being an expat, we have answers. Hi everybody, how are you guys doing today? I hope everything's going well for you. Let's start off the podcast today with an update about PhilHealth. A while back, probably about 3 weeks ago I'd say, I posted an article about PhilHealth and the changes that are coming for foreigners in 2017. There's been a lot of talk about this in the expat community, and a lot of people are worried about it and wondering about it. The problem is at this point that PhilHealth has acknowledged that the memo that they put out was poorly written and that there's a lot of confusion out there. I've heard things about clarifications from PhilHealth, but there's really no solid information out there yet. They haven't put out a new memo to this date. Okay, what I've heard is, and this is very good news for me and a lot of other people too, I've heard that if you have a resident visa, a 13 series visa, that you will still be able to continue the same coverage as we had before. You will still be able to be a dependent on your wife's policy, so you'll still have to pay only 2,400 or 3,600 pesos per year, depending on which plan you're on, and also you will still be eligible for all of the benefits. If that's the case, that's great, and I'm very happy about that. I think it's very fair to everybody. However, we have gone to our local PhilHealth office, and they cannot assure us that this is the case. They only say that they're waiting for directive from Manila. They've heard these things, but they're just not 100% sure. I've seen this information on other forums, and I've had other people tell me that they have been told this by their local PhilHealth office. But I cannot assure you yet until I have official word on this. I'm just letting you know that perhaps it's possible. We'll just have to see. Okay, so that's where we stand with the PhilHealth. I'll be keeping you informed about this either through articles or future podcasts. So far, it's looking like good news. I hope that it actually is the correct news, and I'll be working to get the correct news for you as soon as we can. Do you have someone special in the Philippines? Somebody that you'd like to send a gift to? Maybe some flowers, a teddy bear, or some chocolates? We have a wide variety of gifts available at wowphilippines.com. That's WOW Philippines.com. We've been in business for the last 12 years now. We offer world-class customer service. Why not stop by and give us a visit? www.wowphilippines, that's WOW Philippines.com. Hope to see you soon.
Hey Bob, thanks for your last reply about which large bills to take. One more question. Where is a good place to keep the bills? I mean, on your body? In case of a robbery or something like that, I have a passport slim bag that I keep around my neck. I was also thinking of putting bills in my socks. Any info on where to put money at just in case? I will be going to Manila, then to Subic Bay area, and then to Angeles. I am just afraid of being robbed. Thanks for your help.
Well, hi there, Ken. Nice to hear from you again. I hope you're doing well today. Okay, so you're worried about being robbed. That's really a very common fear for people coming and visiting in the Philippines. I think the fear is a little bit overblown, really. Well, if you're going to mostly tourist areas and stuff, those places probably are targets for robberies and such. But I still think that it's not that common of a thing to be robbed. Pickpockets may be a little more common than like really a face-to-face robbery, or like if it's gunpoint, knife, or anything like that. But it still is good to be cautious, no doubt about that. I think some of your strategies on where to keep the bills are already good. Your passport bag around your neck, that's probably a good place. Your socks, I've done that as well. I've kept money in my socks. It's always worked well for me. I've never even really had an attempted robbery, but what I would really recommend is having your money spread around. Let's say, for example, you had $1,000, around 50,000 pesos that you were carrying, and I really wouldn't even recommend that you carry that much at one time. If you're a tourist, it could be hard. You might not have a place where you can leave some of your money, but carry as little cash as you really are going to need. Try to use credit cards as much as possible, which is actually quite easy now in the Philippines, except if you're in remote areas. But anyway, so spread the money around, put some money in one pocket, some money in another pocket. Put some in one sock, put in the other sock. Maybe in your shoes, in your passport bag that you mentioned. Just spread out in multiple locations. In the obvious locations, like in your pockets, keep very small amounts, maybe just like 1,000 pesos in each pocket or something. That way, if you get robbed, you go into your pocket, you give him the 1,000, you say, that's all I have. I'm sorry, you can have it. That's all I have, though. And most likely, he's just going to take it and take off as quickly as possible, leaving all of your other money in the other places, even in other pockets, in socks, in your passport bag, whatever. I feel like that's a very good strategy to avoid being robbed, having your money taken, even a pickpocket. If you got pickpocketed, they're only going to reach in one pocket. They're not going to stay there for a long time and keep going from one pocket to the other. It's too much of a risk of being caught. So spreading your money around, putting it in out-of-the-way places like your socks, I think those are all good strategies. The main thing, though, is, Ken, enjoy your trip. Have a good time. You're coming over here. You're spending the money to make the trip. Have a great time. Don't worry too much about getting robbed because it's very unlikely that it's really going to happen. Just take the precautions necessary and then don't worry too much about it. Have a great trip. Okay, Ken, that'll do it for today, and I hope you really enjoy coming to the Philippines. Take care, Ken.
Hi, Bob. When contemplating a move to the Philippines from the United States, what is the most important area to focus on first when planning?
Well, hello, Tommy. It's nice to hear from you. It's been a while. I want to let everybody know Tommy's a friend of mine, and we actually met through him coming on Live in the Philippines blog, and we've talked on the phone a few times and some other things. I feel Tommy is really quite a good friend, and we kind of follow each other online and such. So it's nice to hear from you, Tommy. Okay, so I know, Tommy, that you've been thinking about making a move to the Philippines. Just to let everybody know, Tommy has a wife, a Filipino wife, and he also has a couple of kids. One is a very young child who was recently born, so congratulations on that, Tommy. Okay, so you want to move to the Philippines, and you're asking me what kind of things should you focus on in making the move? Actually, Tommy, I think you're going to focus on many different things, and the timing will be different on each one. First thing I think you need to focus on is, do you really want to move to the Philippines? Or is it just kind of a fantasy, passing thing that maybe in 2 or 3 years you really won't have any interest anymore? How are you going to deal with the huge adjustments here? I'll tell you, a lot of people that I talk to think that they're going to come here. It's really no adjustment. Hey, this place is just like the U.S. Honestly, it's not. It's not like the U.S. It gives you that impression if you're here for a few weeks for vacation and everybody's making adjustments for you. If you come here and you're going to live here for the long term, you are going to have to make adjustments for the other people. If there's certain things that you don't like or whatever, 100 million people in the Philippines are not going to adjust their lives to make you happy. You are going to have to learn to accept things the way that they are. For many foreigners, that is a very hard thing to do. So think about that and think about, can you make that adjustment? Are you sure you can make it here? Now, the other thing is that if you find that you can't make it after you've been here for 6 months or a year, you can always change your mind and go back. The problem is a couple things. Number one, a lot of people in 2 months, they decide this place is terrible, I don't like it here, and they go back. I'm sorry, but you can't adjust in 2 months. You can't adjust in 6 months. It's going to take several years, at least 3 years, and many people take 5 years to make the adjustment. If you decide to give up and move back after 3 months or 6 months, you're not giving yourself enough time. So can you make that adjustment? That's a big thing to decide, Tommy, and I would recommend spending a lot of time considering that. Once you've made that decision about whether or not you can handle the change, the next thing to focus on is getting a visa. There's a number of ways that you can live here permanently. For me, I believe the best way is to get a 13 series resident visa, and you can stay here as long as you want then. The only requirement is you have to go do an annual report once a year at the Bureau of Immigration, and you have to pay 310 pesos, about a little over $6, for the privilege of living here for another year. It's all very easy. Maybe you want to live here on a balikbayan visa. Tommy, I know that you have a Filipino wife, and if you enter the country with her, you can get a 1-year balikbayan stamp in your passport and stay here free of charge for 1 complete year. At the end of that year, you can leave the country and then re-enter again with your wife and get another year. Or if you're unable to leave at that time, you can actually go convert that to a tourist visa and stay for up to 36 more months. Maybe you're unsure if you're really going to like it here and stay for the long term. You could just stay on a tourist visa. You come in on a tourist visa, you just renew it whenever it's due, and you can stay for up to 36 months on that tourist visa. So those are some of your visa options. Another one is also the Special Resident Retirees Visa, or SRRV. But I know for you, Tommy, you're a younger guy, and an SRRV is probably not an option for you, or not a big consideration anyway. Okay, so you decide what your visa is, and you're going to take steps to get that done. If you want to get a 13 series visa, you can get it right there in the United States, and you'll be ready to go as soon as you land in the Philippines. Okay, so what's your next focus? What to bring with you and how to bring it. Are you going to pick up everything you own, pack it in a container, and send it over on a ship? That's what I did, but it's fairly uncommon. Well, I don't know if I could say I packed up everything I own. I went through and threw away a lot of stuff, or gave away a lot of stuff that I really didn't need, and certainly didn't need to move halfway around the world. I moved all of the important stuff. I also included things like furniture, all of my kitchen stuff, my office stuff. So you need to decide if you want to do that. It's not cheap, though. Okay, maybe you want to just pick out some important things and ship them over in balikbayan boxes. That's a fairly inexpensive thing to do. Maybe you'd have 15 or 20 balikbayan boxes and get all the important stuff that is meaningful in your life. Okay, or another option is maybe you just want to pack up your clothes in a suitcase and maybe a few important papers and hop on the plane. A lot of people do that. Maybe you could put all of your stuff into storage in the United States or whatever other country you might be in and come over here, and after a year or 6 months or a few years, you might decide, hey, I need such and such, or I need this other thing. And then you could make arrangements to either have it shipped here, or you could make a quick trip home and have those items shipped. Tommy, in your case, I know you have 2 children in your current family. I believe you have some other children from a previous marriage, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm very certain on that, though. But the kids that would be coming with you, you need to consider and focus on how your children are going to be impacted. If you have older kids, those kids are probably going to have a hard time in adjusting. Let's say somebody's like a freshman in high school, and you move them during the summer, and all of a sudden they're in their second year of high school in a foreign land. They're going to probably be very upset about that, and they're probably going to take it out on you and their mother. So think carefully about that. Find out what the kids want to do. I don't believe we should let our kids dictate our lives, but it will have a big impact on them also. So it's something to think about and discuss with your children. If you have younger kids, Tommy, I don't think it's a big concern. Your kids will adjust very quickly. They won't hardly miss a step. When we moved to the Philippines in 2000, we had 3 children. One of our children was 8 years old. Then we had a 3-year-old, and we had a 1-month-old. Really, for all 3 of them, it was a very easy move to make, and within like a month, they were already starting to speak Bisaya, even some Tagalog. So it really wasn't a big impact on our kids, but I've seen other people with older kids that it was a huge impact. Okay, I think one other thing that you need to focus on, Tommy, I'm not saying it's particular to you, but it's a common thing for men. A lot of guys come over here and they like to chase the girls here. There are a lot of beautiful women in the Philippines. A lot of these women are going to be chasing you because they want to find a foreigner, somebody who has some money. This will be somebody that's desirable to them. So focus on this, Tommy. How will this move impact your marriage? I went through some of this when I first moved here, and it had some negative consequences on my marriage. So I have to say that it's an important thing to think about. For me, when I started to see that it was impacting my marriage, I got beyond that and it wasn't a problem anymore. Can you do that? Or is this going to destroy your marriage? I've seen a lot of people that end up with their marriage being destroyed over moving to the Philippines. Another thing that will also impact your marriage, when we moved here, I was loving it so much I wouldn't even consider going back to the States. On the other hand, my wife, who is Filipino, didn't really like living here again, and she wanted to go back to the States, along with one of my children, actually. And we had made an agreement in advance that we would stay here 5 years no matter what. And it was just a couple months that my wife was wanting to go back. I reminded her, I said, we agreed for 5 years, and I'm not going back. And she decided to stick it out, and by the time we had been here about 5 years, she was really liking life here, and we had a good life, so she was ready to keep doing it. I think those considerations, Tommy, are important things to focus on. You're not going to focus on all of them at once. You're going to focus on one, and then once you've made that decision, move on to the next. If you can get through all of these focuses and still want to move to the Philippines, I think it would be a great thing to give it a try. All right, Tommy, thanks again for calling, and I appreciate it very much. It's always nice to talk to you.